Introducing Korean broadcast content that you won't be able to stop watching. For weary modern souls, Dr. Romantic, the quirky genius doctor of Puldam Hospital, prescribes heartwarming tales of humanity. A couple together for 7 years sees their rose-tinted glasses shatter. Can they keep their relationship alive? Discover the raw stories of youth, work, and love. Beyond what social media can show, experience the vibrant Korea through its hidden gems. Mama, the ultimate K-pop festival for global fans. Find your star in a feast of trendy music and electrifying performances. Now, the whole world enjoys it together.
Amid renewed trade pressures from the United States, the White House press secretary says she does not have a timeline for Trump's stated plan to raise tariffs on South Korea. Seoul's foreign minister, who's on a visit to Washington, said he told the U.S. Secretary of State that South Korea is not intentionally delaying legislation tied to a special bill on investment in Washington. Program sell orders on South Korea's KOSPI market were temporarily halted for 5 minutes this morning after a drop in the futures index. Today's sell-side sidecar is the second of this year, and it comes just 4 days after the first. South Korea posted a record-high annual current account surplus last year, led by strong exports amid strong semiconductor demand. It totaled more than $123 billion, surpassing the previous high set in 2015. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun has explained to his U.S. counterpart, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, that Seoul is not deliberately delaying legislation related to a special bill on U.S. investment. Cho told the press corps at South Korea's embassy in Washington, D.C. on Thursday local time that he made those remarks to Rubio during their meeting earlier this week. He said he stressed to Rubio that the joint fact sheet rests on economic and security pillars, and that implementation timelines could vary by issue. Cho also emphasized that cooperation and security should not be hindered by trade-related concerns. Meanwhile, the White House is walking back expectations of an imminent tariff hike on South Korean goods, saying it has yet to set a timeline for Trump's threatened increase. Our Moon-Yeon has the details.
The White House says it has not yet decided when higher tariffs threatened by U.S. President Donald Trump on South Korean goods would take effect, leaving Seoul facing continued uncertainty as high-level negotiations remain stalled. Speaking at a briefing on Thursday local time, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said she did not have a specific timeline for raising tariffs on South Korea from 15% back to 25%, despite the president's earlier warning. She added that the administration's trade team would provide further clarification, signaling that internal discussions are still underway. Trump publicly criticized delays in South Korea's legislative process tied to a bilateral trade agreement and warned he could reinstate higher duties on Korean goods. That move would roll back concessions Washington had offered in exchange for large-scale South Korean investment commitments in the U.S. In response, South Korea's top trade officials rushed to Washington for emergency talks, while Foreign Minister Cho Hyun continues meetings with U.S. policymakers in an effort to prevent the tariff hike. Despite those efforts, Seoul has yet to secure a clear reversal, and government officials say U.S. agencies are still discussing whether and how the tariff increase would be formally announced. Meanwhile, concerns are growing in Seoul that the tariff dispute is spilling into the security arena. National Security Advisor Wi Sung-rak warned that renewed tariff pressure is shaking the broader diplomatic framework South Korea has built with the United States, China, and Japan. In an interview with Gyeongyang Shinmun, we said follow-up security consultations with Washington, including talks on nuclear-powered submarines and nuclear fuel issues, have slowed since President Trump revived the tariff threat. He added that multiple trade and regulatory disputes, including digital trade rules and a data breach case involving US-listed e-commerce firm Coupang, are further complicating relations. We cautioned that economic and security issues are now becoming intertwined, urging Seoul to respond carefully while maintaining coordination with its key ally. 문혜련, Arirang News.
South Korea's benchmark KOSPI index saw a sell-side sidecar trigger shortly after the market opened this morning. A drop in KOSPI 200 futures meant that stock market program sell orders were suspended for 5 minutes. Under exchange regulations, a sidecar is activated when futures prices rise or fall by at least 5% for 1 minute. Today's sell-side sidecar is the second of 2026, and it comes just 4 days after the first. On Tuesday, a buy-side sidecar was triggered following a sharp rebound as investors chased bargains after Monday's heavy sell-off. Meanwhile, South Korea has reported its largest annual current account surplus on record for 2025. The Bank of Korea said this morning that the total surplus for the year reached $123.05 billion, capped off by strong performance in December. The country finished the year strongly, with the December surplus alone reaching $18.7 billion. The performance was driven by the goods account, where exports surged around 13% on-year to more than $71 billion, driven by robust demand for semiconductors. While the services account recorded a deficit of nearly $3.7 billion due to the travel sector, the primary income account supported the bottom line with a $4.73 billion surplus from increased equity income. Bitcoin prices have tumbled sharply, sending the world's largest cryptocurrency to its lowest level since October 2024. According to Coinbase, as of 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time Standard on Thursday, a single Bitcoin was trading at $66,060, down about 8% over the past 24 hours. Overall, Bitcoin is now roughly 24% lower since the start of this year. The drop follows months of strong gains that pushed Bitcoin to a record high of $122,200 in October. Losses have been piling up for several days, with selling pressure intensifying since last week and erasing much of those earlier gains. Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency by market cap, also moved lower, shedding around 10% on Thursday and extending its recent slide. After the U.S.-Russia New START treaty expired this Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump is calling for a new nuclear arms control pact as he seeks a broader deal that includes China. Meanwhile, Trump also publicly endorsed Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi ahead of the country's election this weekend. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump is calling for a new nuclear arms treaty after the expiration of the last major nuclear agreement between the United States and Russia, raising concerns about a possible new arms race. The New START treaty was signed in 2010 and limited deployed strategic nuclear warheads and delivery systems. It was negotiated under President Barack Obama and extended under President Joe Biden. With this expiration, there are now no binding limits on the two countries' strategic nuclear arsenals. President Trump on Thursday called the deal badly negotiated. Posting on Truth Social, he urged nuclear experts to begin work on a new and modernized treaty. Russia had already halted inspections under the treaty as relations with Washington worsened. This week, Moscow said it no longer considers itself bound by warhead limits. The Trump administration wants China included in any future pact. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said China must be part of future nuclear arms talks, citing its rapidly growing stockpile.
Obviously, the president's been clear in the past that in order to have true arms control in the 21st century, it's impossible to do something that doesn't include China because of their vast and rapidly growing stockpile.
However, Beijing has rejected that push, calling the treaty's expiration regrettable and urging the U.S. and Russia to resume talks on stability. The Foreign Ministry stressed that China strictly adheres to a self-defense nuclear strategy. Meanwhile, President Trump endorsed Japanese Prime Minister Tsunade Takaichi ahead of Japan's general elections on Sunday, calling her a strong and wise leader. Japanese media predict the ruling coalition could win a solid majority. Pundits say Takaichi supports constitutional revision to expand Japan's military role, and Trump's endorsement could influence the debate as voters head to the polls. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And South Korea is stepping up its first major initiative to secure some of the most critical materials for modern technology, rare earths. Now this comes as the country works to reduce its heavy reliance on critical mineral imports, especially from China. Our Park Jun-an has the details.
The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources unveiled on Thursday the country's first comprehensive rare earth supply chain strategy. The roadmap comes as part of an effort to enhance the country's energy capability by reducing its heavy dependence on imports, especially from China. Rare earths power everything from electric vehicle motors and high-performance magnets to semiconductors and defense systems, which are crucial components for modern technology. Yet, global powerhouses are concerned because China controls roughly 60 to 70% of global mining, 85 to 90% of refining, and over 80% of finished products such as permanent magnets. For a high-tech powerhouse like Korea, specializing in electric vehicles, batteries, and chips, not being able to secure rare earth minerals is a major vulnerability. The government's rare earth supply chain projects include the three major pillars of short-term stability, source diversification and share risks, and, lastly, local substitution. For short-term stability, the government will strengthen its cooperation with all sources, designate all 17 rare earths as critical elements, and create new detailed trade codes so it can track supplies much more accurately. Regarding the diversification of sources and shared risk, overseas project financing will see major increases from last year's 39 billion Korean won to 67.5 billion won in 2026, or around $46 million. The government will cover up to 70% of loans from last year's 50%, and if exploration fails, companies will only lose 10% of their investment instead of 20%. The Korea Mine Rehabilitation and Mineral Resources Corporation is coming back after years of being banned from direct overseas investment. The corporation will now lead high-risk projects, so private companies don't have to carry the political risk alone. Lastly, the government will offer subsidies to domestic factories that utilize recycling and change the rules governing this. It will also detail a full R&D roadmap covering the use of substitutes and launch new rare earth R&D funding under its existing innovation fund. The government added that it will focus its policy capabilities to build a foundation across the entire rare earth supply chain with unwavering resolve, creating a robust industrial structure that remains steadfast even amid changes in the external environment. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
As Korea becomes a super-aged society at an unprecedented pace, retirement is no longer the end of working for many older adults. Government initiatives and private companies are opening new doors for these older workers. Our political correspondent An Sung-jin talks to various stakeholders in the field on this issue.
Kim Jong-un is 68 years old, and he retired less than a decade ago. For a while, retirement felt like rest. Then it started to feel like stagnation. That's why Kim is back on the job. 3 years ago, he began working as a delivery man, checking delivery routes and delivering food to regular customers.
Older adults doing delivery work. I felt a bit startled at the beginning too. But now, as long as my body allows it, I want to keep working.
Kim is one of the older delivery workers employed by a startup that hires people aged 55 to 74 as delivery personnel for scheduled logistics services.
I think it's a good initiative for these companies to work with government support and hire older workers. We also feel very proud to be doing something.
The company focuses on stable work for active older adults who want to remain economically and socially engaged. It started as an effort to help create workplaces for those who are in poverty or suffer from extreme loneliness.
Our biggest goal is to become a leading HR platform that supplies older workers where human resources are needed.
It's the sense of purpose that what many of those above 60 say they miss after retirement. And that's why both central and local governments, like the Seoul metropolitan government, are pledging to create 330,000 jobs for both public and private for older adults by 2040. And that's what the Seoul Senior Job Support Center has been working on. To address the gap between willing older workers and the market, the center supports seniors like him, offering not only job matching services, but also educational and training programs.
Retirement is not an end. My hands-on experience can be helpful to others and have a meaningful role in society.
Up to now, jobs for older adults have largely focused on public sector positions and relatively simple manual labor. We work on creating opportunities in the private sector employment.
The Health Ministry announced earlier this week that it plans to provide more than 1.15 million jobs for older adults this year, a record number. And that's why a lawmaker says she continues to propose legislation, emphasizing the need for further budget allocation.
Government-provided jobs for these older workers are actually way below demand, but it benefits them in economic, health, and social ways. It's not just welfare, but a social investment as well.
As Korea further advances into a super-age society, the integration of workers like him will be inevitable as they become recognized for their potential as an untapped workforce. An Song-jin, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. Ukraine and Russia on Thursday concluded a second round of peace talks in Abu Dhabi and carried out a prisoner exchange. A U.S. brokered agreement led to the release of 314 prisoners of war, marking the first such swap between the two sides in 5 months. President Vladimir Zelensky said some of those released had been held for nearly 4 years. He confirmed that both sides will likely move to the next phase of negotiations, possibly in the United States. But sharp divisions still remain as Ukraine continues to reject Russian demands for territorial concessions. Nigeria's president on Thursday deployed soldiers to Kwara State after gunmen killed about 170 people in a nighttime assault on a village in the region. The attack in Waro village late Tuesday is among the deadliest this year in the troubled state area, increasingly exposed to violence by armed extremist groups. President Bola Tinubu condemned the attack as barbaric and said the troop deployment aims to stop further attacks and secure remote communities. Survivors of Tuesday's attack say the gunmen targeted the community specifically for refusing to submit to extremist Sharia rule. Security experts now warn that ISIS-linked factions are aggressively expanding their territory from the north toward the southern Kaindi forest. The Trump administration on Thursday unveiled sweeping changes that would allow the president to more easily fire as many as 50,000 federal employees. The overhaul targets workers that the administration says shape policy without accountability. This move reclassifies 50,000 career employees, effectively stripping them of their long-standing job protections. This grants the president direct authority to terminate any staffer deemed an obstacle to his policy agenda. The administration claims the latest move will ensure government efficiency. Worker unions are challenging the move in court. The U.S. State Department has officially cleared the Milano Cortina Winter Olympics of any immediate security risks. The top security director of the U.S. State Department's Diplomatic Security Service confirmed on Thursday that Italy's concentric rings of protection are sufficient to deter potential attacks. Although officials are monitoring high levels of daily cyber activity and drone risks, they expressed total confidence in Italian law enforcement. Security teams have also mapped out protest zones to ensure American athletes remain insulated from local demonstrations. The Milan Cortina Games kick off with the opening ceremony on Friday at Milan's San Siro Stadium. Cho Hyun, Arirang News.
Just when we thought spring was right around the corner, winter made a comeback with a surge of freezing air. Cold wave advisories have been reissued for the capital area, parts of Gangwon-do and Chungcheong-do provinces. But the chill will not stop here. By the weekend, morning temperatures here in the capital could be dipping down to minus 12 degrees Celsius, so please plan accordingly for your weekend. On top of the bitterly cold weather, the yellow dust that formed yesterday is still affecting air quality nationwide. Fine dust levels could reach very bad levels in the western parts of Korea, while eastern regions are still under dry weather alerts. And this afternoon, Seoul could get up to minus 3 degrees Celsius, but the biting winds will drag down the feels-like temperatures, and Daegu will make it to 5 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, heavy snow is expected across Jeollado and Jeju through the weekend, so please stay safe and warm.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.
Time to set the facts straight. Get Korea right.
여러분, 지금 보고 계신 이 모습, 뭔지 아시나요? 바로 택견입니다. 안녕하세요. 저는 방크 연구원 구승현입니다. 네, 여러분, 지금부터 제가 한국의 전통 무예인 택견에 대해 소개해 드릴게요.
볼세기 선거라!